Welcome back to Find It in Fergus Falls. We've got a great special guest joining us today. Amy Johnson is the owner of Cardinal Consulting Solutions. Amy, welcome back to the show. I remember back when you just started your business and you were on the show. It was a very hot day. It was summery time, and well, now it's winter. Things have changed and grown with Cardinal Consulting Solutions, and you are just going full force into bringing youth into our workforce, or getting them kind of some of those experiences. So tell us a little bit about the current role that you're in and the work that you're doing throughout Otter Tail County.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me again, Lisa. So I am owner of Cardinal Consulting Solutions. It's a workforce development consulting company, and my niche is youth workforce navigation. So what does that mean?
It's really what does that mean? So it sounds kind of like, ooh, navigator, like you're going to tell us how to drive or something, or which way to go.
I am teaching you how to drive or build a bridge between students and businesses.
Okay.
So, and the students, that could be teachers, students, or even parents.
Sure.
And so finding that avenue to make those connections specifically for career exploration. And so I love the work, and I found a way to do it. And right now I am an independent contractor of Otter Tail County, and we're about 1.5 years into they have 2 youth workforce programs.
Okay.
And it's all for the sake of building that bridge, building the future workforce, and exposing students, high school students. They could be any age. The focus is 16 plus, because that's typically the year that we can get the students into those opportunities at the employer.
Sure.
But we do field trips and things like that as well to employers in the area, and they can be freshmen, sophomore, anything. So the county has started off with a youth workforce navigation program. And that is open to all industries, all sizes.
All throughout Otter Tail County.
Yes.
And so you can work with a business as small as the owner of the business. Maybe it's a small clothing business or something like that, where they're like, you know what, we hear social media is a big thing. You could help pair them up with students that are maybe interested in marketing or fashion design or something like that. All the way on up to, say, like the county or a big manufacturer or a large healthcare organization, and everything in between.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, when I think of an owner operation, I think of farms. So I do get farmers that approach me and ask if we can help them, and we can, because there are students that are interested in agriculture.
Right. And maybe there's students that didn't grow up on a farm, so it's not like they can just go, work on the family farm or learn it from a family member. There are kids that are like, they're all about the rural, and we'll talk about that before too long too, but they're all about farming and agriculture, but maybe they live in an apartment or they live in the city and they don't have access to that. So you can make those connections.
Yeah. And so we also, there are international corporations within Otter Tail County, and obviously we're working with those sites that are in the county here local. But they're very big organizations, so very adaptable to size and industry. And so, as I said, the Youth Workforce Navigation Program is open to all industries and all sizes. And this work has been supplemented by the Youth Skills Training Program, which is a Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry program. It's actually for those positions that would otherwise be considered hazardous.
Okay.
And so in 2017, it passed in legislation, this program, YST, or Youth Skills Training, for industries such as advanced manufacturing, healthcare, automotive, and agriculture.
Big, high demand fields too.
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, there's so much. That's what we hear from our chamber members, is that their biggest challenge, or the one hurdle that they have to get over to continue to grow and be successful and profitable, is that they're lacking employees, and those are the top ones right there. So what a great great program through the YST, or the Youth Skills Training, where you can pair those students who are going to be our workforce, or who are the workforce, again, with those industries that are in such demand and such need of employees.
Definitely. It's definitely rewarding work. And so YST, its intent is to provide a safe, meaningful, and paid work experience for 16 and 17-year-olds in positions like welding, machining, CNC, healthcare. You might be looking at, lifts or automotive.
Sure.
It's kind of a long list there, but
Yeah.
the machining and the tools and agriculture, there's so many different areas of agriculture that are not talked about that really help. This program helps bring that exposure to the students in all of the industries. Every industry has its own misperceptions, so.
Absolutely, yeah. And to get the students into those places so that they get to learn more. And it's, I think what's great is that you said, meaningful opportunities. So knowing that as you're working, pairing a student with, an employer or a business or a farm, they're not going to be making coffee and pushing a broom around. It's not like you're bringing in somebody to pick up extra chores. You're bringing them in to actually learn something, and what a great opportunity. I mean, I think there's so many businesses and professionals and just folks that are so talented and so skilled in our community. They love what they do and they're excited to teach the next generation about that. So
Yeah.
what a great way to fill in some of those gaps too. And boy, wouldn't that have been fun to have when you were a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Anoka.
Big
and,
city.
Yeah, a class of 750.
Wow.
And around here in our rural areas, the school that my children go to, the class size is 20.
Yeah.
So it's quite a difference. But yeah, I mean, we maybe had some experiences, but they were maybe a little harder to access.
Right.
And that may be the case now in our rural schools and our not so rural, but still rural schools.
Right.
Our teachers are at capacity. And so it's adding that one more thing. So it's a benefit that Otter Tail County can offer this to our schools. There's 14 schools that I work with throughout the county. And they're all engaged, and I'm helping them find that capacity, and along with our community partners like our consortium leaders and such that help with the compliance and things like that. So it does take a village to do this work.
Right.
And though it's not intended to fill the vacancies at the employers, that really is the result of this.
Right. It's a little more long-term than that. We're not just bringing in a 16-year-old to fill a spot, that's a position that's open. But, I think of, this is such a much needed service that is provided, where I would imagine there are teachers that are like, yeah, I'd love to take my kids on a field trip, or I'd love to take them, have a professional come into our classroom, or I'd love to be able to place a student in an internship. As a teacher or as an employer, many times the first thing is like, I would love to make that happen, but I don't have a magic wand. Where do I start? Well, you're like the magic wand. You make those things happen. So if folks are thinking that, yeah, this would be a great opportunity, how do they get started? Like, what's the first step?
They can contact me, ajohnson@ccsworkforce.com. And if you're within Otter Tail County, that work is provided from Otter Tail County.
Right.
This is a grant-funded program, and it goes through next school year. And if you are not in Otter Tail County, you can still reach out to me, because I will offer those services on a consultation basis.
Sure. But so a business in the area, if they're thinking, yeah, I'd love to get that next workforce, like they're looking at their employee, base and seeing that, 30% are going to be retiring in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years. How do we get people to know about us? We don't have local customers, or we're not doing business locally here. We're not a retailer like people think about, or a local restaurant, or especially those types of fields too. I mean, we need to connect with those students so they can contact you for a service to get the ball rolling.
Right, and I can give you a little insight into what that looks like as well. It's really just about taking that leap to make those connections. The number one thing that I hear in terms of a barrier is, I just don't have time.
Right. Yeah.
on both sides, on
Right.
the employer and at the school.
On education as well, sure.
Right. So we have, Otter Tail County has worked with organization, Central Minnesota Manufacturers Association out of Greater St. Cloud. They had an online product available that is an online directory connecting manufacturers, because they're a manufacturing agency, and schools. And so we partnered with CMMA to expand the functionality of that program to all industries, and we've incorporated the career wheel from the Minnesota Department of Ed in the background.
Yep.
That website is k12navigator.org. So k12navigator.org.
Right. And so businesses can go to this. So tell me a little bit about how it works.
So it's a full circle online directory where businesses can find schools, and then often schools, the schools will register, but they will often put who to contact at the school first
Sure.
to get the business to the right place, because depending on the industry of the business kind of depends on who your contact is at the school.
Right.
If, there's ag teachers, there's CTE teachers, sometimes a school is lucky enough to have a work-based learning coordinator. There are counselors so those are all common connections where you
Right.
can call the main number and ask for any one of those to get the conversation started, or go to the school's staff directory. All of their emails are there.
Yep.
And then you would just say, honestly, simply, I would like to connect with students for career experiences. That's all that's needed,
Right.
really, to start the conversation, and then there's questions from there. So businesses can search for schools or find school information that way. Schools, meaning teachers, students, or even parents, can use the K-12 Navigator to find businesses that match the student's interest.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with, contacting a business if you're a parent and saying, I have a high school age student, would you have an opportunity for a job shadow for a day, or for a tour of your business, or whatever it is, especially when the students, many of them are going to have spring breaks and Easter breaks and Fridays off, or, conferences or different things where the students have some time during the day. There's definitely opportunities for that.
Right. We're so quick to jump to the solution is an internship. That can be intimidating for schools, because their reaction sometimes, if they're not prepared, is the student doesn't have that many hours that
Right.
I can release them from school.
They've got to get their regular credits in.
Right. So that isn't actually a barrier, though, because there are other options. That student, if they are seriously interested in a certain career, they could do a job shadow.
Right.
And then you connect the company and say, I have a student interested in this career. Can he explore the environment for 1 or 2 hours? Some might think that's not productive, but it is.
It truly is, yeah.
It really is, because that's all that student needs, is to see, feel, smell, be in the environment of where they think they want to be. And different companies do have different environments, but that's something that I talk about to the students as well, is if you are interested in, I don't know what, it's an endless list, but
You wanna make
restaurants
things.
comes to mind.
Yeah.
You could go to a mom and pop restaurant, or if you want to be a chef, we can put you in a fancy restaurant.
Yep.
If you're interested in marketing, you mentioned that earlier. I would like that student to go into marketing and manufacturing, marketing at a hospital or clinic, marketing in agriculture, and then maybe even at an interior designer architectural firm.
Right. All
Because
kinds of
that
different
could mean
experiences.
so many different things, and every one of those environments are different.
Yeah, lots of opportunities for students to get involved with our businesses and with the organizations in our community. In fact, so much, and this has been such a high demand, that we're kicking off our Chamber MBA, Member Benefits Academy, with how to engage with you. So this particular class is full, but we will be able to offer it again. But that'll be coming up on Wednesday, March 8th at the Chamber. And we're going to record that, and folks can have access to that. But that's just one of the ways. But there are so many other things that businesses can do, whether it's getting in touch with you or registering on the K-12 Navigator page. There's just so much And so I think one of the biggest things that I've learned, Amy, is that you break down those barriers. You help both from the education side as well as the business side, how to get started. Because I think that's the biggest question sometimes is, I don't even know where to start. And so your background in human resources, all of those hoops that people have to jump through to make it happen. You're the simplifier
Yeah.
to make it all happen.
We have gotten such a great response on the K-12 Navigator of businesses registering. So now we've moved on to, I'm actually in the classroom now with the students. I present, it's called Find Your Path. And so I talk a little bit about my path, and then we explore their interests. Sometimes students have interests they won't tell anybody about because they don't believe in themselves.
Sure.
So I try to pull those out. And then I talk to them about how they can get there. Because we're not jumping right into that dream.
Right.
We'll start small and we'll get there.
Learn
It's
some
only going to-
foundational things.
Right. It's only going to make us stronger once we do get there. So, and then also once they start that path, they might find out that they actually don't like it.
Right?
And
And that's
that's-
okay. Rather than wasting thousands of dollars and months and years in a certain field for post-secondary education on something that you realize afterwards, I don't really like this.
Right. Yes. That is so
That's as
real.
important as finding and following that passion and making it click too.
It is.
Well, and I think about too, you talk about find your path, and you've had such a great path, and so many things have built to make your career as well as now owning a business. I would imagine if we asked the 16, 17-year-old Amy back at Anoka High School, so Amy, when you grow up, are you going to own your own business? You'd have been like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And now you are. Plus now, it's kind of a secondary business. Tell me about the shirt.
Okay. So
I love it. Live rural. I mean, we love it.
Yeah. I'm a person of passion. Anybody that knows me or has been around me, I can't hide it. They know it. And so I grew up in Anoka, that is not rural.
Not at all.
And so I used to visit rural growing up. I love fishing, and I loved it. And then, grew up into adulthood, and I found a man that grew up rural, and we ended up moving rural, and I love it. We were looking for a quality of life, found it. And so that was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I visit the city. And so anyway, so of my passion, I love to advocate for youth in the workforce, empowering women, and more specifically, there have been women that have approached me over the years in the business that I'm doing that are in the city life.
Right.
And they say, I really want to move to the country.
They want to slow things down and enjoy life
Yeah.
a little bit.
They do, and they say, but I'm never going to make what I'm making here. And then I just say, whoa, that's not true. That's not true.
Right.
Because I'm an example of the opposite. Like, you won't if you say that. When you're transitioning rural, you might have to start with less. But you do it for a short time, you prove yourself, you work hard, show up, be friendly, you will get there fast.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be willing to do that, but it's 100% possible to find success in rural. And so I have worked with some women and re-skilled them to rural. And that's a real thing too, is there are a lot of people out there that want to live this quality of life, but they have a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
But honestly, the quality of life that is offered here with the free amenities and the free resources and entertainment, just being in a place of peace.
Yes.
And I mean, honestly, like I've said before, when I used to commute from Otsego to Plymouth, I mean, I witnessed a car rolling down their passenger window and throwing a cup of coffee out at the other car. I think that was my final straw, where I told my husband, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
And I grew up here. Yeah. And so now I might have to stop for wildlife.
Yep.
I don't even know if I have a stoplight on my 20-mile commute to Fergus.
Sure.
So
Yeah, we don't have rush hour traffic. Yeah, we watched 5 turkeys this morning on the way in. They were, in somebody's yard, and I mean, it's so different.
So peaceful.
Such a great quality of life too.
Yeah, it really is. I kind of got addicted to a radio show in the cities, 107.1 The Talk. And so I would listen to that on my commute sometimes, and they talk about the gridlock in the cities as I'm driving on a summer day through rural Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it's just gorgeous, and you just want to pull over and take a picture. And I just always wanted to, it would be unsafe, so I'll say it here instead of doing it actually. But I always wanted to record that in the background of talking about the gridlock and, on the interstates and the cities. And I'm just drinking my coffee and driving along.
Just nice and peaceful,
Yeah.
enjoyable, and truly, I love it. You really do wear the message of live rural, and anyone can do it.
Anyone.
Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Between your services, of course, Chamber, we're happy to help folks relocate to the great Otter Tail County.
So to wear my passion of promoting and advocating for youth in the workforce, women, and living rural, I created a t-shirt shop online. It's called the Advocate Shop, and it is on my website. CCS stands for Cardinal Consulting Solutions, so ccsworkforce.com. And then you would just click on the advocacy shop, and there are t-shirts there with different sayings promoting those three areas: youth, women, and living rural.
Fun stuff.
So, and I actually found a vendor that lives in my small town of Ashby. She is a woman that is also a teacher, and she wanted to do more, and she wants to grow her marketing business. So.
Yeah.
I just like to help and see others succeed as well.
And I think that's one of the great things about being in a rural community too. As professionals, we're here to support each other, not be cutthroat and competition against each other. We're here to lift each other up. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing, both for your businesses, for the youth in our community through education, and all the businesses in our community too that can benefit from your passion. So just
Thank you.
Kudos to you, Amy, for following your path and following your passion and making it happen. And again, if folks want to get in touch with you for workforce through the business or through education, best way to get in contact with you?
Would be to email me at Amy Johnson, at ccsworkforce.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for all of the work that you're doing in the community. We'll look forward to you being our presenter for our first Chamber MBA in the month of March. And sure, we'll continue to work together and keep those students and the businesses connected.
You sure will.
Absolutely. Well, thanks. We will be back after a little break.